Okay, imagine this. Like a whole universe living right inside you.
It's not just a metaphor.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Literally trillions of microorganisms bustling away in your gut. And this isn't just some, biological oddity. It's fundamental.
Absolutely. It shapes so much. Your immunity, even your mood, how you think.
It's this invisible force really underpinning our existence.
Mm-hmm.
So today on the deep dive, we're heading into that inner universe, our mission, to explore the really big and sometimes unexpected effects of something we all know, antibiotics.
Mm-hmm. Lifesavers, but with consequences.
Right. We're looking at the latest research to see how these drugs hit that delicate world inside us. And importantly, what you can do about it. This is crucial stuff for your own health decisions, maybe even rethinking things.
It really is. And the scale of this internal ecosystem, our gut microbiota, it's just mind-boggling.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
Totally. Don't just think bacteria. Think like this incredibly complex, diverse rainforest.
A rainforest, okay.
Packed into your gut. You've got bacteria, fungi, viruses, even tiny protozoa. And it's densest in the colon. We're talking maybe 10 to the power of 12 cells per gram.
10 to the 12th per gram.
Wow.
Yeah.
And somewhere between 300, maybe even 1,000 different species of bacteria alone.
That's astonishing. And the term microbiome, that's the collective genes of all these guys.
Exactly. Their combined genetic library. And get this,
Whoa.
that library is about 150 times bigger than the entire human genome.
No way, 150 times.
Yeah. So genetically speaking, our microbes have way more instructions than we do.
That's incredible.
And they do vital stuff for us, way beyond just digestion. Take the immune system. Our gut microbes are like its boot camp.
Boot camp? How so?
They train our immune cells, help them learn what's a real threat versus, harmless stuff like food antigens.
So tolerance versus attack.
Precisely. They help regulate that balance.
Okay, so immunity training, what else are they up to?
Well, metabolism and nutrients are huge. They help us break down things our bodies can't handle alone.
Like fiber. I hear that a lot.
Exactly. Fiber, complex carbs. And when they do that, they produce these amazing things called short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs.
SCFAs. Right, like butyrate.
Butyrate is a key one. It fuels the cells lining your colon, and it's strongly anti-inflammatory. Plus, they synthesize some B vitamins for us, vitamin K.
Things we need.
Yep. And they reinforce our intestinal barrier, like strengthening the wall.
Keeping bad stuff out, letting good stuff in.
You got it. Prevents harmful things leaking into the bloodstream, but allows nutrients through.
Okay, makes sense. And you mentioned mood earlier. The gut-brain axis, that sounds fascinating.
Oh, it's a massive area of research now. It's a really profound connection. Your gut microbes directly influence neurotransmitters.
Like serotonin?
Serotonin, yeah, GABA, even stress hormones like noradrenaline. They affect the production, the balance. They also play a role in brain inflammation, neuroinflammation.
Wow. So problems in the gut could actually link to anxiety, depression.
There's growing evidence linking gut dysbiosis, that imbalance, to anxiety, depression, even neurodevelopmental issues.
So gut health isn't just physical. It's mental, too.
Absolutely woven together. How you think, how you feel, your gut's involved.
Amazing. Are there, main players in this gut world?
Yeah.
Dominant bacteria?
Yeah, definitely. It's not an even mix. Over 90% of the population usually comes down to two main groups. Two phyla,
Right.
Bacteroidetes and Firmicutes. Those are the big ones. Within those, you see lots of things like Ruminococcus, Eubacterium, Clostridium.
Got it.
And interestingly, about 99% of them are anaerobes.
Meaning no oxygen.
Right. They thrive in environments without oxygen, which is basically our colon. So yeah, a few dominant groups really run the show. Disrupting them has big knock-on effects.
Okay, so we've got this vital, complex world inside us. Then along come antibiotics. Lifesavers, absolutely. But for this inner world, a double-edged sword, you said.
That really is the perfect description. Antibiotics were revolutionary for fighting bacterial infections, still are. But the problem is many of them aren't very specific. They're like a broad sweep.
Killing the good with the bad.
Exactly. They wipe out beneficial gut bacteria right alongside the pathogens they're targeting. That really throws off the balance.
And that imbalance, that disturbance,
Yeah,
that's antibiotic-induced gut dysbiosis.
precisely. Dysbiosis just means that disruption, and it means a big drop in microbial diversity.
Fewer types of good guys.
Yeah, and fewer of them overall. You lose species, you lose functions they performed, and ironically, this cleared out space can actually make it easier for antibiotic-resistant strains to take hold and grow.
Oh, wow. So you lose the good stuff, And potentially make way for tougher bad guys.
That's the risk. It hits our helpful commensal microbes, hurts our immunity, makes it harder to resist new infections taking root, and messes with our metabolic balance.
It sounds like the effects could be pretty widespread and maybe last a while.
Yeah.
Let's look at the lifespan perspective. What about during pregnancy? Antibiotics are sometimes needed
They
then.
are, yeah, for things like UTIs, respiratory infections, bacterial vaginosis sometimes. Common ones are things like beta-lactams, penicillin-related drugs, sulfa drugs, macrolides. And what's really interesting, or maybe concerning, is that even antibiotics given during labor, like for preventing group B strep infection in the baby, that can alter the infant's gut diversity right from the start.
Before their microbiome even really gets going.
Exactly. It sets a different starting point.
And are there known long-term effects on the child if the mother takes antibiotics?
There's definitely research pointing that way. Animal studies, for instance, showed that giving certain antibiotics around birth made the offspring more susceptible to gut inflammation, like colitis, later on.
Hmm.
And some human studies have linked longer-term maternal antibiotic use to a higher risk in the child for things like asthma, allergies, obesity.
Obesity, too.
Yeah, and even metabolic changes, possibly linked to diabetes risk down the line. It really shows how critical that early window is.
That's quite sobering. What about babies and infants getting antibiotics directly? They seem so fragile.
They are particularly vulnerable. Antibiotics are used pretty often in newborns, especially preemies, because their immune systems aren't fully developed.
Right.
So they might get amoxicillin, cephalosporins, gentamicin, things like that. Short term, you often see a big drop in diversity, especially a reduction in beneficial bifidobacterium.
Bifido, those are good ones for babies, right?
Very important early colonizers, yes. And at the same time, you might see an increase in potentially problematic bacteria, like Enterobacteriaceae. This dysbiosis can affect growth and definitely increases the risk for things like C. diff infections or antibiotic-associated diarrhea.
C. diff is nasty.
Very. And other bacteria like Klebsiella or Staph aureus can cause that diarrhea too. Sometimes even H. pylori infections are linked.
And long terms.
Yeah.
For these infants who get antibiotics early, does the gut bounce back fully?
That's the big question. The long-term effects can be really significant. We're talking potentially altered gut composition that lasts for years.
Yes, wow.
Yeah, and that can translate into metabolic changes, and again, that increased risk later in life for obesity, asthma, allergies. It seems like messing with the microbiome during those critical early developmental windows can really set a different trajectory for long-term health.
Okay, so profound effects early on. What about for us adults? Do we just take antibiotics, feel better, and our gut resets? Or are there lasting changes there too?
Well, that's a common assumption that it just bounces back, but
Yeah.
the research suggests it's, well, not that simple. There's usually some recovery, partial restoration. But studies looking at common antibiotics, say ciprofloxacin, amoxicillin, they show the microbial makeup can still be altered, and importantly, there's an increase in antibiotic-resistant bacteria even 12 weeks after you stop taking them.
12 weeks. 3 months. Okay, that's longer than I thought.
And that's not even the most extreme example. Some studies, particularly with an antibiotic called clindamycin, they found disruptions that lasted up to 2 years.
2 years from one course of antibiotics.
It's possible, yeah. It really highlights that these effects aren't necessarily temporary blips. They can be quite persistent.
That's a huge deal. Doesn't matter what kind of antibiotic it is. Do different types have different impacts?
Yes, the mechanism matters. Broadly, you have bacteriostatic drugs, they stop bacteria growing, and bactericidal ones, which kill them outright.
Okay.
And there seem to be different downstream effects. Bacteriostatic drugs have been linked sometimes to an increase in gram-negative bacteria, and the genes they carry for making things like lipopolysaccharides, which can be inflammatory,
LPS. Right.
whereas bactericidal drugs might be linked more to an increase in gram-positive bacteria and genes for making tough structures like endospores.
So different types of disruption.
Exactly. And it's not just pills you swallow. Even local antibiotics, like those used sometimes in dentistry, they can have systemic effects by selecting for resistant strains in your mouth that might then cause problems elsewhere.
This really brings us to that massive global problem, antibiotic resistance. It sounds like our own antibiotic use is directly feeding this crisis.
It's a huge contributor, absolutely. You see this pattern again and again. Antibiotic use leads to less diversity in the gut, and almost in parallel, a rapid increase in antibiotic resistance genes, ARGs.
ARGs.
We see it in adults, we see it in newborns. These genes might decrease slowly after you stop the drug, but they often don't vanish completely, and the spread is the worry.
So these resistant bugs aren't just surviving, they're actively sharing their resistance tools.
They are incredibly sophisticated, they share genes, and they build defenses like biofilms.
What does this resistance look like out in the world? Are there concrete examples?
Oh, definitely. The implications are global. There was a study on Swedish students. They found higher levels of these ARGs, especially after traveling internationally. Some picked up bacteria-producing ESBLs,
EFBLs, what are those?
extended spectrum beta-lactamases. Basically, enzymes that make bacteria resistant to a whole bunch of common antibiotics like penicillin and cephalosporins.
So superbugs, essentially.
Yeah, a type of superbug. They pick these up traveling, often in places like the Indian Peninsula, showing how easily this stuff moves around the globe.
Wow. Global transmission.
And it's linked to specific diseases, too. High levels of ARGs have been found in patients with colorectal cancer, for example. Specific resistant E. coli seem involved.
That's worrying.
And in patients with liver cirrhosis, they also find more ARGs. The levels tend to increase as the liver disease gets worse, and it's linked to poorer outcomes for the patient.
The scale of this is immense. How exactly do bacteria share this resistance? You mentioned sharing genes.
Yeah, the main mechanism is called horizontal gene transfer, HGT.
Horizontal transfer.
Think of it like bacteria passing useful bits of DNA sideways to each other, not just down to their offspring.
Like trading cards.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Trading resistance cards. Common gut bacteria, like bacteroids, for instance, can pick up resistance to tetracyclines or beta-lactams this way, often on mobile genetic elements, even beneficial bacteria, like Akkermansia mucinifila, which we like having.
Right, I've heard of Akkermansia.
It seems to have acquired resistance to quinolone antibiotics, probably through HGT.
So even the good guys can become resistant reservoirs.
Potentially, yes. And then there are biofilms.
Biofilms, like protective slime layers.
Exactly. Bacteria create these communities embedded in a protective matrix. It makes them much harder to kill with antibiotics.
Yeah.
Some E. coli strains have genes that help them form strong biofilms, and this is linked to developing high levels of resistance. They become like resistant progenitor cells.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're really adaptable. And there's that paradox you mentioned earlier. Taking antibiotics actually helps the resistant one.
It's precisely the issue. When you use an antibiotic, it kills off the susceptible bacteria. Who's left? The resistant ones. And suddenly they have all this space, all these resources, no competition.
So they thrive.
They proliferate. They occupy the niches left empty. Studies have literally shown the total bacterial load doubling in fecal samples from patients on broad-spectrum antibiotics, primarily due to resistant strains taking over.
Okay, so it's about the bugs themselves and their resistance. But what about what they produce? The metabolic side.
Right, that's another huge layer.
Right.
The effects on the gut metabolome, all the small molecules produced by the microbes and us in the gut, are really significant, but maybe less studied or less understood than the changes in the bacteria themselves.
So what kind of metabolic changes are we talking about?
Well, there's research in mice linking low-dose antibiotic exposure to changes that promote obesity.
Obesity again? How?
It seems to increase certain hormones involved in how the body handles fat, carbohydrates, and cholesterol metabolism.
A direct link to metabolic processes.
Yeah.
That's fascinating and kind of scary.
It is. And another really key area is bile acid metabolism.
Bile acids from the liver.
Yeah, produced by the liver, but heavily modified by gut bacteria. And these modified bile acids act like signaling molecules throughout the body.
Okay.
So antibiotics can really mess with us. Vancomycin treatment, for example, was shown to increase primary bile acids and decrease the secondary ones, like deoxycholic acid, which can be beneficial.
And what did that do?
In patients with metabolic syndrome, this shift actually led to reduced insulin sensitivity in their peripheral tissues, so potentially worsening metabolic problems.
Wow. But not all antibiotics did that.
Interestingly, no. In the same kind of study context, amoxicillin didn't have that significant impact on the bile acid profile.
That's a really important distinction. Different drugs, different metabolic fallout.
Exactly. It shows how specific bacteria, the ones targeted or spared by different antibiotics, play unique roles in processing these compounds that affect our whole body's physiology.
Okay, so given all this, the dysbiosis, the resistance, the metabolic shifts, it can feel a bit overwhelming. What can we actually do to help our gut microbiome, especially if we need antibiotics?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And thankfully, there are strategies. A multifaceted approach involving probiotics and prebiotics looks very promising.
Okay, probiotics and prebiotics. Let's break those down. Probiotics first. What are they exactly?
So probiotics are live microorganisms, usually beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus or bifidobacterium species, sometimes yeasts too. The key is that when you consume them in adequate amounts, they confer a health benefit.
Leave good bugs. How do they help?
They work in several ways. They can actually produce substances that inhibit the growth of pathogens like little chemical weapons against bad bugs.
Okay.
They also compete directly with harmful microbes for space to attach to your gut lining, like claiming territory.
Makes sense. Crowding out the bad guys.
Right. And they can improve the integrity of that intestinal barrier we talked about, strengthen the gut wall. That's really helpful for things like IBS or IBD.
Protecting the lining. Do they talk to our immune system too?
Absolutely. That's a major function. They modulate intestinal immunity. They influence how gut immune cells respond, often promoting a more anti-inflammatory environment by affecting cytokine production.
Cytokines. The immune messengers.
Exactly. Probiotics can also help stabilize the whole microbial community, potentially increasing diversity and restoring balance after a disturbance like antibiotics. And interestingly, even if they don't drastically change who is there, they can change what the community does metabolically by influencing microbial enzymes, especially those involved with carbs.
So they can change the activity level.
Yep. And back to the gut-brain axis, they play a role there too, influencing neurotransmitters and immune signals that travel between gut and brain, neuroimmunology.
That's a lot of potential benefits from probiotics. Now, what about prebiotics? How are they different?
Prebiotics are different because they aren't live microbes themselves. They're specific types of non-digestible compounds, mostly fibers. Their key feature is that they selectively fuel the growth and activity of beneficial bacteria already living in your gut.
Ah, so they're food for the good guys we already have.
Exactly, like targeted fertilizer for your beneficial microbes.
Okay, and how does that help?
By feeding these good bacteria, they promote the production of those vital short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, like butyrate.
Strengthening the gut wall again.
Yes, and nourishing the colon cells directly. Prebiotics specifically encourage the growth of bacteria we want more of, like bifidobacteria and lactobacilli. This helps increase overall diversity too.
So specific fuel for specific good microbes. What are some examples of prebiotics we might find in food or supplements?
Good examples include inulin, which you find in things like chicory root, onions, garlic. Inulin's great because it also helps mineral absorption and stimulates mucin production for the gut barrier.
Okay.
Then there are fructans, like FOS, fructooligosaccharides, and oligofructose, GOS, galacto-oligosaccharides, resistant starch.
Resistant starch, like in cooled potatoes or green bananas.
Exactly. Also pectic oligosaccharides, POS, and even flavonols, like the ones found in cocoa.
Cocoa. Interesting.
Yeah. And these prebiotics do more than just feed bacteria. They also interact with the immune system in the gut's lymphoid tissue, GALT. Plus, they can play roles in appetite control, weight management, and even improving blood lipid profiles and overall metabolism.
So a really broad range of benefits from feeding the right bugs.
Wow. This deep dive has really driven home just how central our gut microbiome is. It's not just a passenger, it's a core part of our health.
Absolutely critical.
We've seen the huge, sometimes unintended impacts of antibiotics across our whole lives, from before birth right through adulthood. And that escalating problem of antibiotic resistance, it's genuinely concerning.
It requires serious attention globally.
But it's not all doom and gloom. We've also seen the potential of things like probiotics and prebiotics to help restore and maintain that crucial balance.
Understanding these connections, these complex interactions, it really is vital for protecting your own health.
Yeah, and for making smarter choices about antibiotic use when possible, and maybe supporting your gut afterwards.
It underscores the need for a much more sophisticated view of these drugs and their effects. It's not just about killing one bug. Definitely. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Given how deeply this inner microbial world shapes pretty much everything about us, how might we start thinking about our daily choices? You know, the food we eat, the medicines we might take, viewing them as ongoing conversations with this tiny but incredibly powerful universe inside us.
That's a great way to put it, a dialogue worth paying attention to.